I'd like to apologize in advance for misspeaking so much towards the end of this video. I apologize. Hello everybody, we are in March. This is the first horror movie of March, and I really wish I was watching Leprechaun. I have a feeling that might be popping up on the Monday Patreon movie reviews. But today, I have another movie to talk about. This is the 1932 movie called Vampyr. Directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. I am not a fan of this. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the movie and Dreyer in general before I tell you my thoughts on the movie, and then we'll get to the scratching, which I think is going to be my favorite part of this entire experience. This was a very challenging movie for Carl Dreyer to direct because it was his first sound film, his first talking film. And one of the requirements of him doing this movie is that it had to be filmed in 3 languages, which is super difficult to do, and I could imagine it being even harder back then. So the way he kind of went around that is he gave it very little dialogue between characters, and anytime a significant amount of information needed to be portrayed, somebody would pick up a book and we would see the title card, which was the book page that would tell us the narration of what was going on or the thought process of what was happening in the movie. Another part of this which I don't understand at all is when this movie got its first initial release, I believe in Germany it got generally negative reviews. It wasn't a good movie. People were not happy with it. They didn't like it. So Carl took it back, re-edited it, and then released it to the rest of the world, where it was met with mixed reviews. Still, a lot of people didn't like it. Some people thought, okay, maybe this isn't super terrible. But this was deemed a very low point in his career. It just really wasn't doing it for anybody and didn't help him out in any way that he was hoping, maybe, possibly. It wasn't until recently that modern critics would start praising the disorienting visual effects and atmosphere. And this brings me back to what I've said about critics before. It is hard to take anybody's word on a movie if they don't know what you are into. Whoever is praising this movie now, obviously, I am not on the same page as they are because I am not praising any part of this movie. I don't even think there's a vampire in this movie. One guy gets killed by a shotgun. Somebody else was gonna poison somebody. Somebody got buried in flour. I mean, it's really, this movie is not on my list of good reviews. We had a pretty good run with Dracula and Frankenstein and Freaks that I was all amped up about and really happy, and Vampyr just fell super flat. I don't even think I saw a sharp tooth in the entire film. And not to mention, another really big part that has raised a lot of questions that I'll go to after this is not the original movie. From what I've been reading, the original film and negatives were lost, and they had to take the remaining German and French versions that they had, which were also damaged, and try to splice together a movie that covered it. Some versions were only 60 minutes long, some were 72. I'm not quite sure how this movie made it onto the list, if it might not even be the original movie that we saw. And my first thought was, which I'd mentioned before, I think they just picked from the National Film Registry. As far as I can tell, and I even looked into the Wikipedia page of the National Film Registry, this isn't on it. The 1932 Vampyr film is not in the National Film Registry. So I have no idea how it made it onto this list, but somehow it did. Now, I just mentioned that listening to critics or reviewers say whether a movie is good or bad is hard to do if you're not on the same page movie-wise. I have a lot of friends that talk very highly of sports movies or war movies, and I'm sure if you ask your little cousin Frozen 2 is the best movie in the entire world. So if you're not on the same page as the person that you're talking to, it's hard to take that advice. Keep that in mind when I say save yourself 72 minutes and do not watch this film. I would suggest going back and watching the original Man, and then going to my Spreadshirt and getting a t-shirt or a sticker. And soon we'll have another version of the sticker that you can get directly from me, and awesome enamel pins. Or go back and watch Frankenstein, and then keep checking out these pages to see what the next invisible duck in the Creepin' It Real series is. I'll give you a hint, it's Frankenstein's monster. Which I'm really excited about. I've seen some of the sketches already, and Natalie, of course, again, is knocking it out of the park. With all of that being said, let's get to my favorite part, especially of the Vampyr movie. We're gonna scratch this off the list so that I don't ever have to watch it again. All right, we're gonna zoom in here for the scratching off of Vampyr. And I have no idea what is going to be behind this scratch off. I'll tell you one thing I'm pretty sure it's not going to be: a vampire. Yep, so here is the main character, who was not a vampire. Surprise, surprise. This movie should be called Anything But a Vampire. All right. Now that we've gotten that checked off and out of the way, let's get back to me on screen. Okay, now that we have Vampyr out of the way, this week we're going to be checking out The Old Dark House. I have no idea what that is about. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably an old dark house. I've never seen it. I don't know any trailers about it. So I'm hoping that it is a hidden gem, a surprise. Now that I've had my palate cleansed by Vampyr, I want to thank everybody again for taking time out of your day to watch one of my reviews. Hopefully you agree with me. If you don't, let me know below. Make sure you hit those buttons, those likes and those subscribes. Tell your movie-loving friends about me, and see if they're on the same page as well. Very big thank you to my Patreon subscribers whose names are going to pop up in just a second. We have a treat on Monday, thanks to my buddy Andre, who picked up Lightning from Big Trouble in Little China for me. He gave this to me last week. So we're going to be reviewing Big Trouble in Little China. So we're going to be going over that on my Monday movie review on Patreon. Thank you guys very much, and I will catch you next Thursday. Later days. Nope, I just had it.